Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Happy Baby Talk Tuesday. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Cara Wright, and I am a baby whisperer, among other things. I've basically been contributing to and assisting and just really interested in all things moms, babies, birth, pregnancy, and what else is possible. So welcome if this is your first baby talk with me. Yeah, how does it get better than this? So today I wanted to talk about thought, and it's a very interesting topic. Does thought affect your birth? Um, the short answer of that is it absolutely does. Um, I was a doula for many, many, many years, and prior to that, I was also someone who I did prenatal and postnatal yoga classes. So I really got to know women. Was with them during the majority of their pregnancy. Um, like before I was actually attending births as a doula, I they would come to postnatal yoga. So I have so many um birth stories in my world. Like all of these women talk to me about their births and what occurred and how things occurred and what their sense of the birth was and how they felt after the fact. And some women are a lot more into having the conversation about it than others. But over the years, over the 20 years plus that I've been around all things baby, birth, pregnancy, there's been a lot of conversations around, as you can imagine, around birth. I also did a lot of birth preparation classes. And in those birth preparation classes, so much of what we talked about was, like what I would have called it back then and what I call it now is very different. But like back then, I would have called it like mindset, like actually having a, a way you were like a way you were thinking about your birth that was going to actually empower you, actually create the birth that you were wanting to create. And so back in the day, prior to learning all about access bars and prior to learning some of the access tools and the access consciousness body of work and applying that to birth, it was all about having the right mindset and having like the positive thought of like what birth, what you were going to achieve or what you would like to create or, what your birth plan was, like all of these things. So everything was always about thinking. Now, for me personally, like, again, prior to finding access bars and the tools of access consciousness, I thinking was really important to me. Like I actually thought if you could get to a place where your thoughts were positive and they were like supporting what you thought you wanted to create, thought, think. Like I valued intellect and I valued people, researching and studying and choosing what was going to work for them. And some of that is actually 100% still what I recommend, and some of it isn't. Because what I have learned since is thought can actually disrupt, like just period, full stop. And so, one of the things that's wonderful about birth and that I also know about birth and learned along the way, you have birth is one of those things that you have so many different perspectives. It is like one of the most polarized slash bipolar, like topics you can delve into, meaning there are so many different perspectives and different ideas that people have, and there's so many different routes that you can take, and there's a million different things you can educate yourself about. And I was really an advocate of women educating themselves about um, what they were going to encounter in today's traditional births, kind of in the industrialized, normalized birth. If you were going to go into a hospital and you were going to have a baby in a hospital with an obstetrician, you need you and you still do. You must educate yourself. You must educate yourself so that when you come into contact with some of the things that happen very often and normally in hospitals, you have to know what that thing is so that you then can make the choice that works for you. If you don't know what something is and it's being offered to you, as can happen a lot in birth, um, you're not going to know what you don't know. And so it is very good to actually educate yourself. And one of these times I will do my favorite books um, to get that information. I'll do like my top 10 favorite books on one of these days on Baby Talk. But so there's that aspect of actually like educating yourself, which, all of that is ideas and thoughts and so on and so forth. So there's that piece of it. However, there is something that has to occur where you have the information, especially if you're going to go into like a hospital setting. It's very, very important. And, birth is always like the chance that you would end up having to go to a hospital, like even if you're planning a home birth or you're planning a birth center birth, sometimes you end up actually having to transfer to a hospital. So, there is a little bit to just getting the basic information. You can ask lots of questions with your, and also there's, like I said, there's some great books out there. But the trick is having that information in your world, but not being the effect of it. Meaning not having those ideas and things that you've learned create a level of anticipation and avoidance, and that it actually starts to affect how your body is able to um, begin the process of labor, continue the process of labor, like allow labor to progress. The thing that I learned over all of the years, what like being with women during birth, is that the more they could get out of their head, the more they could stop thinking and get out of the way, literally get out of the way of their body, and also out of the way of what their baby is capable of contributing to the process, the easier the births went. And easy in the sense of they tended to be shorter births. They tended to be less painful births. They tended to be less intervened births. And so I really started to, for my own self, really look at like, how do I support women to be educated and have the information that they really require? You wouldn't necessarily go into a foreign country without understanding some of the cultural things you need to understand, right? You would understand that. Now, when you got there, would you be so like freaked out and like anticipating that you wouldn't enjoy your time? One of the things that I talk about all the time, for me, a lot of the energy of being a doula, or when I functioned as a doula, was like, it's literally being a travel guide. You have experience, especially for first time moms. Yes, their bodies absolutely know how to birth. If we got the hell out of the way and stopped thinking we knew what was best for every woman and every body and how things should go and the timing of everything and what this means this, and like if we literally just got the hell out of the way, birth would be so much simpler. There is this incredible misconception, and if you just barely do a tiny bit of research, you will realize right away it is a total misconception that um the more intellectual we are with the process, and the more we control the process, and more we manage the process, the better outcomes for mom and babies. It is literally the opposite of that. Totally and utterly the opposite of that. You can look at any research studies. It's actually going even more in that direction. And so this whole idea of, yes, be aware of the environment you're birthing your baby in. You would be crazy not to. Now that you're aware, what can you add that would allow you, your mind, your thoughts, all the thoughts that you're aware of everyone else, because that is the other trick that I wanted to talk about in this baby talk, is that for most women, like, many of the thoughts, the fears, the emotions, the trepidations that they have aren't even theirs. They're just simply aware. They're aware of their partner, they're aware of their own mom, they're aware of their mother-in-law, they're aware of their grandmother, their sister, their friend, all of the above, anyone who has a point of view about birth. Now, here's the weird thing about birth. Everybody has a point of view about birth. Even 98, the 98-year-old grandpa on the corner of the block you live on. He has a he has a point of view about birth. And pretty much everyone thinks that their point of view is the right point of view. Now, when I say point of view, that's a thought. Like, that anytime someone has a point of view, that you can or you can't do something, that this is good or this is bad, that this is healthy or this isn't healthy, that, if you have your baby in the hospital, it's going to go great. If you have your baby at home, it's going to go great. Like, there's so many different, like I said, different perspectives. And so how do you navigate all of that? How do you have that in your world, but not have it affect your birth? It's a great question. There's lots of different ways to approach it. There's a lot of people who, there's so many different birth preparation methods that are, like one that's popping to mind right away that I worked with a lot. There's one called the birthing from within birth preparation method. That one was really lovely. Delve deep into like all the things that could be coming up for you, because for those of you that have ever been pregnant and have a birth looming, basically, it reveals a lot to yourself. Like, things are revealed to you. It brings a lot up for women. It brings a lot up for men. It brings a lot up for your mom, who's going to watch you go through the process, and she may or may not have had a great process. It just starts to reveal all of those things that are there, that are constantly influencing you and your choices, that you may or may not have wanted to look at before. And for whatever reason, when you are pregnant and a birth is imminent, those things show up and they get very loud. And so, there, like I said, there's birth preparations. There's also hypnobirthing was one that was very popular when I was a doula. And again, that's about, getting your head out of the way and allowing your body to actually do what it knows to do. I mean, there's all these studies and stories of, like, literally women who are in comas, like, they're not functioning cognitively and they're pregnant, and their bodies know it. Your body knows how to deliver your baby. Your baby's body knows how to deliver itself. It is a total collaboration. And a lot of what gets in the way is the thoughts, the mind, the anticipation, you know what I mean? The anticipation of, like, what's going to happen. The idea that you actually don't know what the fuck is going to happen. Like, that, for a lot of women, the unknown is insurmountable. In fact, I always had a theory that, whether you medicate for your birth or you do a birth unmedicated, it's totally a choice. I do really recommend you educate yourself on, like, the things that can happen if you're medicated, and also be aware of what can happen if you're unmedicated. Have that information. Again, it's like this very delicate balance between educating yourself on something that you haven't experienced yet. And even if you have experienced it, maybe you haven't experienced, you definitely haven't experienced this particular baby. But also then being able to not have what you have put in your head as a form of, like, hey, it's there if you need it, but it's not there to dictate what is possible for you and possible for your body. And it is a delicate balance, and sometimes people do well with it and sometimes people don't. And I have seen and I saw time and time again, this thing is the thing that caused more intensity, more pain, more like upset, more like births being long for women. Um, Truly, the mind is a powerful, powerful thing. So one of the things that, like I said, there's different techniques, like there's a million different modalities, and I worked with clients that use them all. I found access bars um, when I had been a doula for, I don't know, 15 years at that point. I found access bars because I personally required it, and I'll share that in another story. But I found access bars, and when I learned the bars, I was so friggin' thrilled because I was like, if these things do what they say they do, this is gonna be a game changer. Because it isn't easy to get your head out of the way. Like, you can literally get in your own way by obsessing about trying to get your head out of the way. And I mean, so many women, especially nowadays, so many women, like, we're taught to be educated, we're taught to be intelligent, we're taught to think through things, we're taught to, like, that this is going to get us somewhere. And then you get pregnant, and I always used to say to women in my prenatal classes, like, you don't get up in the morning and go, okay, today I'm gonna, okay, body, today you're going to develop the heart a little bit more. Okay, body, today you're going to put fingernails on. Okay, today you don't do that. You don't think through your pregnancy. You, for the most part, are kind of along for the ride and you allow your body to do what it does. We try to like pretend like we have some sort of control over it. We really don't. Um, and then we get to birth and we think we can think through it. Like, no, it's like your body, you don't need, like, you're not going to sit there and go, okay, body, let's go from 1 centimeter to 2 centimeters. No, but yet we allow intrusive thoughts. Am I going to be a good mom? Is it, am I going to end up with a C-section? Is my baby going to be okay? You know, um, there's all these intrusive thoughts that begin to come in. And the thing about access bars is the main thing access bars does is it dissipates the effect that the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that you're aware of have on you and have on your body. And it's a very simple, like 32 points on the head. You hold them very gently. You don't even really, I mean, women, my clients at the time, especially when I was both doing bars and doula work, they would just sleep through the whole thing. They didn't even really like, some of them were interested, but they would literally sleep through the process. It is like one of the most relaxing things you can do, which for anyone who's been pregnant, is currently pregnant, relaxation is a good thing. And what I started to see is that freaking thought hurdle that would show up for every woman, very, very, very few women would get out of the thought hurdle. Some of them would get over it very fast and get through it very fast, and some bodies just zip you right through that process so fast that you don't have time to think. But for the majority of women, there's a lot of time. And what is required in birth is that we give space to the body, to the baby. We give time. We're patient. We're not pushy. We don't force. And anytime those things start to show up in a birth, it's because people are starting to think. They're starting to decide things. They're starting to make assumptions. They're starting to get squirrely about what's going on, what isn't going on. Oh God, this isn't like, they're comparing, dear God, comparing any birth to another birth Not good. It's just not, it will never create greater. Never. Um, and so what I started to notice simply by running women's bars, and I would do that a lot in early labor, those thoughts just didn't have the same effect. They just didn't have the same effect. I mean, bars has a very similar uh, sensation to meditation. So like the hypnobirthing. Like there were so many women who just loved the hypnobirthing material and used it through their pregnancy to prepare for their birth and all these things. But when you get into birth, sometimes that's not enough. And overcoming what shows up for you with that body of work, it doesn't always work for women. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of women have dissatisfaction with their births, is because the thing they thought that was going to work for them didn't. And so they go into the wrongness of the thing, they go into the wrongness of them for choosing it, they go into the wrongness of their body and the wrongness of their baby. Thought, which also then affects postpartum. That fourth trimester, that first 3 months that you are with your baby, that is a very precious and precious time that needs to be protected from that just thought tsunami and conclusion tsunami and worry tsunami. And again, like bars is one of the things that I have found, bars in question. Like I wish I knew bars for every client I worked with. When I found bars and I saw what it did, I really truly was like, wow, I wish I had this all along, because it made such a big difference for my clients. And the other thing that made a big difference was question. Like knowing how to ask questions with my clients and with women to get them out of the monkey mind. Because we all know once sometimes the thought gets going, it just keeps going and going and going and going and going and going. And to disrupt it is very difficult. And there are some questions and there are tools and there are things you can be and do. And what I used to do, and what is also very effective prior to bars, is movement. Like that was always when I would like change scenery. If a woman was really getting stuck in her head, I was like, okay, let's get in the shower. Okay, let's go for a walk. Whatever. I would just change scenes, so that just that change of scenery might trip her out of that mental barrier. Really, truly, it's a mental barrier. So, it's such an amazing conversation. Obviously, there's a lot here to speak to, and there's so much value in knowing and not ignoring the fact that what you are thinking of yourself, of birth, of your body's ability to birth, of your baby, of what's coming, is absolutely going to have some effect. What is the effect you would like it to have? And what kinds of things can you add to your birth, to your pregnancy, to your birth, to your birth space? And when I say add, I mean energies, people, modalities. Find an Access Bars practitioner, get your bars run. A lot. All of those kinds of things. Listen to all my baby talks, because I do love to talk about the tools of Access Consciousness. They're so easy to use. They're so friggin' practical. Anyone can use them with any friggin' modality. You can use them if you're in the hospital. You can use them in a birth center. You can use them if you're in the car on the way and the baby decides now's the time. Like, you can use them at any moment in time. So this topic, I'm sure, will be like, I could go on forever and ever. Thank you for joining me today. If you have any questions, if this stimulated another topic you would like me to go into, maybe something a little bit more specific, please let me know. I have, obviously I do these every Tuesday. And I also have a group called Baby Talk with Cara Wright on Facebook. You can ask to join. If this would contribute to anybody you know, whether a woman who's pregnant, going to be pregnant, people who assist women with birth, please share. I would love for all all women and all care providers of women to have these tools, to have this different possibility, to know that there's more going on than you probably have been aware of, but you've never actually acknowledged it's true. Because I know I knew there was more going on. I knew this whole baby birth thing was magical. I just didn't have the words for it. And so a lot of what I speak to in Baby Talk is that bringing that magic back. So please share, and we'll see you next week.